Is going on, everybody? Thank you for tuning in to another edition of On the Road to Victory. I am your host, Jimmy Smith, and I hope you're all having a great day. But I come bearing some Eagles news. Now, you know the Eagles just lost both of their coordinators after going to the Super Bowl the first time that's happened since 1994. Holy Lord. But look, let's be real here. This team, I believe that was the 49ers, but look, this team is still built to do a lot of special things. And we've talked about some coordinators that could make sense on offense, on defense. So trying to keep you up to date with all this stuff, but got a little bit of news for you here. So this is not a live video, but I'd love to hear your thoughts if you're watching this later and, on offense or defense. But with this news, let's jump right into it that Vance Joseph, the Eagles have requested to interview him. And now he is currently the Cardinals defensive coordinator. But the Broncos also had requested yesterday to interview him. Some talks with the Broncos and Rex Ryan. We'll see which way they go. But Vance Joseph, man, this is the guy, Eagles fans and media were clamoring for all year this year. A lot of people did not like Jonathan Gannon's style of play. Thought blitz more, a lot more man coverage. Well, that's who Vance Joseph is. He runs odd fronts predominantly, but he could definitely mix it up. But this guy, he plays a lot more man coverage, a lot more aggressive. So this is what the media was really trying to push for. But to be honest with you, that's not really, I don't know, man. That's man coverage. It can work if you got the right pieces. So it depends on, what we do in free agency in the draft. And I believe in Howie. So I'm cool with whoever we go with here. But if you look at things, Jonathan Gannon, had this defense as number one in the pass against the pass and number one in sacks. And I think we were 18th in blitz percentage. The Cardinals were second in the league. Almost 35% of the time they were blitzing. And they ended the season, I believe, 23rd in sacks. The Eagles were 18th in blitz percentage, and they finished number one. We're third in NFL history with 70 sacks, and then had four players for the first time in NFL history with 10 plus sacks, and they actually had 12 plus, all of them. So it's a different game. I know a lot of people think blitzing every play and man coverage is the way to go, but I might get their wish here. And also, I think they were like 24th in passing yards per game. So bottom tier against the pass game, but I know a lot of fans will be excited to hear about this news. I know that they would prefer to have more of a defense like the Cardinals had rather than the Eagles. So I will try to get with it if it happens. But you guys know me. I enjoy having a number one defense, and I have a couple thoughts we'll get to in a second. But, for some of you who don't know who Vance Joseph is, let's brush up here. You see, he started his coaching career in Colorado there as a graduate assistant, then a defensive backs coach on to Bowling Green. And then, of course, he got to the NFL as an assistant DBs coach. Then he got the defensive back coach with the Texans in 2011. And then he went to the Bengals and the Dolphins. Finally got a head coaching job with the Broncos for those couple years. And that didn't last for more than those 2 years. Then he became the Cardinals defensive coordinator in 2019, and he's been doing that since. And real up and down with those defenses. You guys remember he actually had Hassan Reddick there, and in that first year, did not work out well. Hassan Reddick as an inside linebacker, that just does not work. You guys remember why I was so adamant that the Eagles, why he was my number one priority this offseason, was because you needed to use him as that Sam linebacker that we have in this defense. So when he was used as an outside linebacker by Vance Joseph, I think he had 12 and a half sacks that next year. So he did figure out how to use him. But then the next year, Reddick went to Carolina, played defensive end, and then he came here. But that's why we talked about this, perfect fit for the system we were running here. And that's why I feel I would like to run this system, because I believe there are pieces in place and there are guys you just, fill in, guys that step up that were, behind guys in the depth chart, draft some people, maybe sign some back, whatever it may be. But I would like to run this system and break some more records and, again, have the best defense in the league. But I know some people are going to be against that. You might get your wish here. So for those of you that were clamoring for a bottom tier D, no knock, for those of you that are Vance Joseph fans. I know that with the right pieces, he could possibly get things done. with an aggressive play style, though, against guys like Patrick Mahomes, that's not going to work out too well for you. You don't want to blitz against guys like that. Again, they blitz the second most in the league and were 23rd in sacks per game to finish the season. So take that what you will. But yeah, the Vance Joseph, he runs, again, those odd fronts, mostly like a 3-4. We were running odd fronts here, but not really a 3-4, more or less a 5-2, 5-1, doing certain things. But with those odd fronts and running a 4-man front, that's what we talk about, this multiple scheme defense, the versatility of it. I love that. And maybe he would try to, work with the pieces he has. I don't really know, but the Eagles are looking to interview him and ask him what he would do. Now, for me, you guys know I said this offseason that I would stay in-house here. So I think Denard Wilson, we talked about before this season started, Jonathan Gannon's right-hand man, and, somebody who would run the same system. I think maybe a little differently with his history, how he's done things. But I like this dude. Did well with the Jets. Then he came with the Eagles in 2021. This year, we gave him the passing game coordinator, the same title he earned with the Jets there. But the guy knows ball, and I really like him. And we've talked about him again since we hired him 2 years ago. But this past year, probably, going to lose Gannon, thoughtful that we would be losing Steichen. And yeah, we did. So look, this guy, I like having a good defense. I know, please, if you're upset about that, take it up with Dan Sileo. I know he's more into the bottom tier thing, but for me, Denard Wilson would get the job done, and that's who I would rock with. But speaking of rocking, Tracy Rocker, that's another guy on the Eagles staff that, go check out that video from the other day when Gannon signed. We talked about all of the guys on the Eagles staff, and you see here, Tracy Rocker's been around the way and never had the opportunity, but maybe the Eagles are willing. We'll see. But beyond that, I talked about Nick Rallis. Look, he's only been coaching for a few years here, but the kid's got that fire, and we all love him. We've talked about him, his brother in the WWF, WWE, whatever. You see that, look, he doesn't have much of a resume here, but I really like this kid, and, maybe they've seen something. They speak very highly of him, but I hope he stays on the staff regardless. But hey, maybe he gets a shot. Then I did have a list compiled. I was going to do a completely different show, but then the Vance Joseph news came out. So let's take a gander. I threw together 10 names that are out there. Some of these guys are currently on teams. The other ones are listed with their last work. So Sean Desai, somebody we've been talking about and somebody you've been hearing about lately. And, he's still with the Seahawks, but he is the assistant head coach and a defensive assistant there. So obviously people are always looking for, a promotion there. And, he's been working his way through the ranks, started with the Bears in the NFL. He's a Temple guy. That's why, we've been talking about him, but I'm talking about NFL here. He went from Temple to Miami to, I believe, Boston College. But then he was with the Bears for a couple years, working with the defense, the safeties. And then he was the defensive coordinator for the Bears in 2021. So he's got some experience there. And I like what he did with the Bears that year. And look, I think that he would be a decent hire and maybe somebody the Eagles could look into. Then Al Holcomb, just a random little name out there who he's been around the way a little bit. He's only 52 years old, but he's right now, he was hired with the Bills as a senior defensive assistant, but just last year and the past few years before that, he was the interim defensive coordinator for the Panthers, worked with the Browns, the Cardinals, the Giants before. He did some college work, and he actually, with one of the local schools, Bloomsburg, that I live by, he was somebody, I'm not sure what my dog is doing right now. I apologize for whatever that noise is, but he was at Bloomsburg and then Kutztown. So I'm a fan of Al Holcomb, and look, obviously there's some better names out there probably in your mind, but just throwing together a list of names that could be possibilities. Vance Joseph, we just talked about. Jim Leonard here. Look, and Jim, I remember him playing, man. Like, I was graduating high school when he came in the NFL. Like, that's how old I am now. Like, this dude's already done playing. He's coaching. And he started at Wisconsin. He was a defensive back coach, but then he got the defensive coordinator job while also being the defensive back coach for 6 years there from 17 to 22. And then he was the interim coach in 22 for the Wisconsin Badgers. So Look, he's got some good experience. I like this guy. He's only 40 years old. Another guy, with some experience. I think I would like to see him, get some opportunity somewhere and maybe just on the staff, not necessarily defensive coordinator. Marquand Manuel, you guys remember a couple years ago, was on this Eagles staff. And most recently, he is the safeties coach with the Jets currently right now for the last couple years. But he was the defensive back coach for the Eagles in 2020. He was the D coordinator for the Falcons during a certain time. But he also was part of that Seahawks Legion of Boom. So, hey, say what you will. A lot of these guys, you got to live and learn. So we shall see. But then you got Gerard Mayo, obviously gets talked about every year as, possibly a head coaching candidate. He is the inside linebackers coach for the Patriots. And I'll be real with you, I would love to steal him from the Patriots and have him as a defensive coordinator. So we'll see which way the Eagles go, but obviously some possibilities here. Then Pagano you've got here. He's a little bit older at 55, but a guy with a lot of experience here. And he did some work with the Chargers. He has familiarity with Sirianni. So maybe he gets brought in. He was the D coordinator in 2017 for the Raiders. And then he worked as the Texans outside linebacker coach and senior defensive assistant for a few years before getting work with the Broncos as the outside linebacker coach, most recently 2021. So he's been off for a year, but look, a guy that I like his style, and obviously as an outside linebacker coach, I love me some odd fronts. Wade Phillips, somebody that, right now getting back into coaching here with the XFL. Let's go, Wade. But the Roughnecks will be his team there. He is actually the general manager, not just the head coach there. But before that, he was the defensive coordinator with the Rams. But in 19, since then, he hasn't done anything. So he's been out of the league for a while, but he's back, baby. And that a person would much rather have a defensive coordinator job in the NFL than being in the XFL. No knock to the XFL, but I think for me, obviously, I would take that job. But I like Wade Phillips. I saw that Honest NFL guy talking about him. He was one of the names I was looking at, so I thought I'd bring him up. But I think I'd go with some of these other guys before I do that. And then Lovie Smith, man. I love Lovie Smith as a coach. I really do. But, this dude, he runs that Tampa too. And we've talked about this, where it can be used and you can use variations of it, certain styles. But I like to go the route we're going with the new NFL, the bend don't break kind of defense. And, Tampa 2 can definitely work in certain situations, but I'm not saying he couldn't bring in a defensive coordinator with a different, or a defensive backs coach and somebody else, to try to help him, get a different mindset, something like that. But I don't know. I know a lot of you have asked about that, but I think I'd go with some of those younger guys we talked about. And then Mike Zimmer, I really like Mike Zimmer here. And, we talked about Gannon, learning a lot from him. And, it's not the same defense. We did not anywhere, close to run that same defense. And he most recently was the Vikings head coach for a while there, since like 2014. But this year he took a job at Jackson State as an analyst. So I think for me, there's some guys with some great experience. If you're looking for experience, you could definitely find that here on that list. And, maybe Sirianni's looking for that. But I think these guys have been learning on the fly and getting experience as they go here themselves, because this defense, has a lot of great coordinators, a lot of great pieces, assistant coaches, all that great stuff. And, the players, we had some great players this year. Obviously not going to be the same. You're going to have to retool, and that's perfectly fine. I'll keep you up to date with all that stuff, and the Eagles will be just fine. So it's going to be intriguing. Maybe you just go with someone in-house and you grow together. That's kind of where my head's at. I'd love to know where your head's at, though. Who do you like on this list? Maybe you've got a thought on the offense, and we'll continue talking about these things throughout the next couple of days. But I would love to hear from you. Appreciate you taking the time. If you got anything from this, do me a favor and hit that like button. You can always hit that subscribe button down below and join us while we're talking some birds. But until next time, I am Jimmy Smith, and this is On the Road to Victory. You stay safe out there, and as always, go Birds!